30 seconds. So again, I'll probably get some housekeeping first. For those that actually just stay on, listen to the first session. This is our second session. If you have any questions, you feel free to ask in the Q&A box or in the chat box. If you just basically want to ask the panelists or maybe the speaker, just click on to speaker. Or if you basically want your questions to be being known to anyone, then you can basically just to panelists and attendee. There is an option for you to choose and pick. During the presentation, I would advise that everyone to mute their mic, and also you can even basically feature your webcam if you like to. If you basically want everyone to see you and say hello, and that's the thing. But without further ado, can we basically give a warm welcome applause or hello, give a hand wave to Ajay Biyani from ForgeRock. He's the managing director for ASEAN country. As you can already hear just now, our little conversation, he is in Singapore, and he's going to basically talk to you about the modern identity platform for your consumer, workflows, and things. Pass it on to you, Ajay.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And again, glad to be here, excited to share virtually. This is the new normal, folks. So again, we are all adjusting to it, but the world goes on, the business goes on, and we all have to move on with the new normal. With that, I would like to start with my presentation. My name is Ajay, based out of Singapore, Managing Director, ASEAN at ForgeRock. For those of you who would like to connect with me, there is a QR code there. You can scan it and connect with me on LinkedIn. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the modern identity platform for consumer, workforce, and things. So without further ado, let me get into the topic. First and foremost, right, anything we do in this world, there has to be a basic question asked, like, why do this? As we look at digital businesses and the needs they have, after talking to hundreds of thousands of our customers globally, we figured out there are 5 key reasons why they really need digital identity for digital businesses. First and foremost, they need everything connected, whether it's your customers, your employees, your contractors, they are expecting everything to be connected. They want flexibility to work from anywhere, anytime, by means of any channel or any device. And again, in current times, when people are remotely working, they want connectivity and access to the systems from anywhere, anytime. Secondly, it is important that you provide a delightful experience. Most of the customers, right, especially in online businesses, whether it's financial services, whether it is telecom, whether it is retail, airline, hospitality, you name it, and government, right? For those of you who are based out of Singapore, Singapore government is the golden standard when it comes to providing delightful experience by providing, online services, etc. The experience that you provide differentiates between successful companies and failed companies. If you put friction, if you make it difficult for your end customers to work with you, people are not able to going to stick around with you as a brand. Secure interactions. Now they expect security to be implied, right? Nobody will tell you that I want everything to be secure. It is assumed that it is implied. But at the same time, as you move towards online channels and online services, your threat exposure area, your threat surface area increases tremendously, and you're open to the the world of hackers who will try and basically try and disturb your business or attack you by all means. But at the same time, your customers expect your systems to be secured enough against any kind of cyber attacks. Data privacy, as customers or employees, we demand full privacy to our data as well as the information that we are sharing with the providers, right? And they take privacy very seriously. We all have seen recently a lot of data breaches, a lot of privacy breaches, which essentially led to people leaving brands, as well as some strong amount of penalties, which takes me to the next point around regulatory compliance. Likes of GDPR, PSD2 have started out of Europe. but most of the countries in ASEAN and APJ in general are looking at similar compliance standards, which will not only hit you from a brand recognition perspective, but also your top line revenue. As an example, under GDPR, you have to pay 4% of your revenue as the penalty if you're found, to be in breach of data privacy. And that essentially puts a lot of pressure and takes seriously the regulatory and compliance requirement for consumers as well as for employees. So why are the existing identity approaches failing? Right now, we know the needs, why people want to do it for their digital businesses. Why is it failing? Primary reason being siloed identities. Over a period of last 20, 25 years, as the digital transformation kicked in, internet kicked in, and smartphone penetration started to happen in, pretty much a globe. People build their own identity solutions. Sometimes, bought from a legacy provider. Sometimes they build their own solution, which essentially led to siloed identity and access management. Every line of business, every company that you acquired had their own identity and access management. So siloed identity is the biggest problem we see in the market. Secondly, outdated security. Static authentication authorization is no more good enough. It is good probably when you're confined to your own premises, when you had everything under your control. With people coming out through internet, well, people trying to access your systems from pretty much anywhere, anytime, the authentication authorization has to become very much dynamic. The fraud detection capabilities have to be dynamic enough to understand between good actors, bad actors, bots, you name it. That also means you need to understand at a granular level the privacy controls. And again, the legacy technologies, the old way of doing IAM, did not have all these controls in place. And again, in today's world where new regulations are coming, they all require a new set of tools and new way of looking at regulatory compliance, etc. Limited extensibility is another reason we hear from the market. That's primarily because whatever was built in the past was built for monolithic application which was maximum web facing. Whereas in today's world, what we are seeing is people coming through mobile applications, third party application, fintech applications, and primarily API based economy where everything has to be built and distributed in the form of APIs. Scalability is another concern, right? And again, very good example is the current situation with COVID-19. Most of the companies, organizations that we are dealing with were prepared for 10 to 20% of their workforce to work from home, with remote connectivity. But the situation now is that almost 100% of your workforce would be working from home and would require remote connectivity. And that essentially means your identity and access management system has to scale for the entire workforce base. You top that up with the consumers, which are now only having an option to come online and do transaction with you, be it be a bank, insurance company, hospitality, retail, you name it. The scale is running from hundreds of identities, into the next level. And you add to that, IoT, Internet of Things and devices, etc., which essentially makes it more and more difficult going forward to scale. We are hearing from the market as we speak in the current situation in pretty much all the ASEAN banks are facing tremendous scale of users from digital banking and mobile banking perspective, to name it. All of them have basically reported anywhere between 100 to 300% increase in online traffics to their systems. Inflexible solution is another point of item. Essentially, what they are saying there is that they have technology which is kind of good for purpose for one type of application, but not good in general, for the upcoming applications and the new age architectures, primarily around microservices and APIs. So the solution is inflexible. If today you are using one type of solution for, say, multi-factor authentication, tomorrow if you want to change it, you have to pretty much redo everything, rebuild everything, and redeploy everything, which is kind of inflexible. And lastly, painful compliance. And painful is the key word, primarily because of this evolving stature of compliance standards. As much as it was good for employees and contractors from a governance perspective, now with the likes of GDPR, PSD2 coming up, and every company, every country implementing their own version of these standards, it's going to get more and more complicated and challenging for your existing system to adopt. So that's where we see, the most of the existing IAM approaches failing. Moving on, so that essentially takes us to the next side of the discussion, which is why is digital identity essential to transformation? As I said, it's about knowing who you are dealing with, what they're trying to do with your brand, when they're trying to access it, what is the contextual information behind that transaction that's happening, and why they would like to transact with you, and what kind of personalization you're providing to them. And hence digital identity is a very key building block for your digital transformation needs. uh, at ForgeRock, we do not distinguish between customer identities and employee and contractor identities, because pretty much if you are working on delighting your customer by providing seamless registration, experience, transparent security, and privacy, your employees would expect the same thing from you, because they are working hard to make your customers successful. So the way you treat your workforce is the way they're going to treat your customers, right? They are expecting borderless access, anytime, any kind of access, anywhere with any device. They want automation. They do not want to wait for their accounts to be provisioned to get access to different type of systems. They want single sign on. Productivity is impacted if they spend time managing their credentials or logging in them multiple times. And taking it to the next level, now with the zero trust principle and privacy themes coming in built, they expect intelligent and transparent security in place for themselves as well as for the customers. It does not impact the businesses in the form of requirements and the needs. It also impacts the tangible benefits of the business. And when I say tangible benefits, it is the impact on the top line, how you can use digital identity to grow your business and competitive advantage. I'm going to touch on some of the examples in upcoming slides, but it is essential to differentiate leveraging digital identity, and we are seeing more and more FSI and telcos and governments coming up with digital identity based services. Um, uh, it also leads to reduction in costs. If you have one platform for your employees, your contractors, your consumers, and devices and things to come, you have basically reduced your infrastructure cost, your skill set cost, because you're managing one platform across the globe, across the spectrum of identity and access management requirements. It improves your security, privacy, and compliance primarily by giving you a 360-degree view of your customers and the accesses your employees and contractors have, so that you can take intelligent decisions in real time and improve your security and privacy posture. Also, it increases productivity. As I was alluding to the point in the previous slide, you implement single sign-on, you implement automated provisioning that reduces the amount of time an employee or contractor has to wait to become productive, as well as it gives them more time to focus on your customers, so it increases their productivity in general. So it has a lot of tangible benefits in general. To drill down further into those tangible benefits, let me take a few examples. Right, as a customer of a bank, of a telco, I expect my bank, my telco to know me, essentially provide services that I want without even me telling them, personalizing those services and the experience. On the other hand, as an employee, um, we are just focusing on customer experience. That's not good, and probably biased towards customers only. As an employee also, I expect good experience given to me, especially when I have to deal with complex systems and it impacts my productivity to log in multiple times, or doing multi-factor authentication using hardware tokens multiple times a day. And there is a trend going on. More and more FSI customers and telco customers are doing this day in day out. The exceptional digital identity experience essentially leads to one consolidated identity driven single view of the customer across all your line of businesses, so that you can do cross sell and upsell. So if Ajay was a customer holding a savings account and a credit card today, you can try and target him for upcoming offers on his iPhone, upcoming services on insurance side or wealth management side, and so on and so forth. So that gives you an ability to grow your business by doing cross sell and upsell. You can provide new and intelligent services around digital identity. A lot of banks these days and telcos these days in some of the countries leveraging their KYC customer base and offering that as a service to new age fintechs, so that the fintechs don't need to do KYC. They can talk to the bank or the telco's API and get a confidence that Ajay he says who he is, and he is KYC'd by the bank or the telco. Instead of they going through the full cycle, they leverage that as the data point and get going with the customer and start doing business with them. It allows the business platform level integration, as well as innovate faster in your ecosystem, because as a fintech, for example, you do not want to spend reinventing the wheel and going after millions of consumers that you want to target. You might want to affiliate with banks and telcos existingly and leverage them to grow your customer base. It also helps you build comprehensive user-centered programs, right? Better services and experience. If I'm an iPhone user and I do my mobile banking or my transaction with the telco on my mobile phone, which is an iPhone, for example, targeting me for an Android-based, sale will not work. It will be a waste of energy and effort and dollars on marketing side. Instead of me, if you can understand me, is that offering whenever next iPhone comes in, the chances of me going with your credit card to buy that new iPhone or take up the offer is much higher. So that essentially, makes your customers and employees secure and frictionless access anytime, anywhere, by all means, and makes your marketing very, very intelligent. So that helps growing your business and competitive advantage. Next, by having, a transparent identity and access management authentication system, which silently looks at the context of the user, implementing the principles of zero trust and kata, helps essentially provide a seamless yet secure experience to your customer while maintaining the privacy and compliance requirements. We know it, for a while, 15, 20 years now, there's a lot of control on the employee access governance and access certification that we go through, but similar things are required for your customers. It also improves your brand ability, to gain that trust. And again, we at ForgeRock believe trust is everything. If your customers trust you, they're going to give you more business, they're going to continue to interact with you, versus where they feel less secure, or if they feel that your brand is not complying to the regulations around privacy and security, chances of they giving up on you or running away from you is much higher. You also have to give choice to your customers and employee the way they want to interact and authenticate with you. For example, if I'm traveling, if I'm on roaming, I may not be comfortable receiving, an SMS OTP or an email OTP. I might as well want to use, my off the band authentication mechanism to get in. So giving that choice by channel, by type of transaction, and where I'm located, makes it more and more seamless and secure for the end customers. Uh, Very good example is passwordless authentication these days, which is picking up very fast. Um, you got to employ, controls around complying with regulation worldwide, but also at the same time, you have to make sure that whatever you're building is future proof from a compliance scalability perspective. On the reduction of the cost side of the things from a tangible benefit perspective, again, the scale that we are seeing is much, much larger. And again, with traditional providers in IAM, to scale up could be, a cycle of spending too much time, months and months of getting hardware and sorted out. The cost associated with hosting it and running it is much higher. Whereas if you go with the new way of deploying platforms like ForgeRock, leveraging DevOps and CI/CD, you can accelerate your project timelines by 3 to 6 months, save on cost of the infrastructure, hardware, software. I'm going to give you a very short example in the upcoming slides. Um, on the other side of the equation, you want to speed the deployment faster. You want, because time to market is the difference, right? If you follow CI/CD principle and DevOps way of deploying your infrastructure, you need a platform which is deployable fast and you can make changes fast with least of administrative management requirement. You do not want to have any kind of vendor lock-in, because today you are using one type of multi-factor authentication or behavioral analytics system, or kind of marketing integration. Tomorrow, if you evolve from a deployment perspective from cloud provider to cloud providers, from say AWS to GCP to Azure, you want that flexibility to have multi-cloud deployment as well as no vendor lock-in on any kind of supporting technologies that we're using. You want flexibility. You want essentially build secure apps leveraging the space API with minimum manual processes and interaction, and making things simple for your applications to adopt and integrate with. And obviously save times, by DevOps way of deploying things, maintaining things, and deploy the orchestration and automation. That leads to a huge cost savings from infrastructure perspective, time perspective, and a skills perspective, because you're using the same platform internally and externally for your IAM requirements. You got to increase productivity by deploying a good identity access management platform, right? As I said, common skills would and self-service related, information and feature sets will allow your employees to work on the right things, which is the business side of the things, rather than resetting passwords and calling help desk. At the same time, your customers feel pained, and they feel they're losing time by calling help desk to reset their password. They expect self-service. While maintaining a kind of frictionless approach. You do not want to ask 100 questions on day one when somebody is registering. You want to do it progressively. You want to know your customer in a progressive way. Ask few questions at a time, and the next set of questions can come after x number of logins or x number of days. You want to deploy things faster because you want to roll out new features in the form of microservices on top of your deployment patterns, or you want to give user as a choice to basically choose the way they want to authenticate. More and more examples are coming out where people want to leverage YubiKeys, FIDO based ways of doing authentication, leveraging touch ID and face ID kind of ways of authenticating rather than carrying heavy tokens in hand. And again, you want to leverage the new technology to increase productivity by automating deployments, by integrating, your integration patterns, leveraging REST APIs. So those are the few points which help, provide tangible benefits if you leverage a digital identity platform like so ForgeRock. Now, what does ForgeRock really provide? As a modern platform, we provide an end-to-end comprehensive platform for consumer workforce and things. It essentially has got lots of integrations in place. Is a very lightweight platform. The total size is about 250 megabytes for all the components combined, and that's been the reason we are so ahead in terms of our DevOps journey and are able to be deployed on any kind of public cloud, private cloud, or likes of OpenShips. We take care of the signals from the extreme left side of the equation when customer, employees, or contractors are dealing with your IAM system as an orchestration layer. We look at 100 plus inputs from different type of signals that we capture on the device or on the contextual information around where you're coming from, what you're trying to access, and how. As well as we can integrate with technology partnerships to prove that information, validate that information, and make sure that it is the right person who's accessing the right systems. On the other side of the equation, we are able to enrich the data into your downstream system, whether it is your EKYCs, whether it is your CRMs, ERPs, or HRMS systems, as well as your marketing system to provide right kind of data, contextual data, so that they can do better things, intelligent things. And the whole platform essentially is built on the principles of zero trust and Kata, leveraging standards like OAuth 2, OpenID Connect, SAML, to name a few. Everything that we build is based on REST API. So it's first kind of approach while building functionalities and features that we built on our platform, and it can be deployed anywhere, your premise, your data center, or any kind of public cloud, as well as a service going forward with our platform. To bring to some of the unique feature set and functionality that we have, I just want to quickly show you a short video from here.
Designing login journeys for your customers and employees shouldn't be cumbersome to create nor update. That's why ForgeRock developed the Intelligent Authentication solution, so you can easily consume multiple authentication services, fraud prevention, and analytics, all in one place. Integrate, create, and customize login journeys in a matter of minutes. With an intuitive UI, you can build authentication solutions that meets your login needs when your organization needs it. As an administrator, you can easily configure a login experience for your users. You can create a new tree here, and in this example, call it Demo. Now you're presented with a canvas on which you are to model your login journey. To get our bearings, let's model the traditional login journey that requires a username and password. You can drag and drop the node, which collects the username, and then drop a node, which collects the password. You join these up and then compare the provided credentials against an authoritative store, such as an LDAP directory, to find out if it's true or false. If it was correctly entered, the user's authentication succeeds. Otherwise, they fail. Let's save the tree and take a look at the user experience. To bring up the authentication flow, let's type in and service equals demo. The user is asked for their username, and this is equivalent to the username collector we see on the left-hand side. Now the user is asked for their password, and they can log in. That is how you basically model the user journey using intelligent authentication. But this is just a quick peek of its capabilities. If you want to introduce something more sophisticated, like Google reCAPTCHA to defend against bots, you can wire that node in very easily. Save the tree, and when the user logs out, in again, they now see the widely used "I'm not a robot" requirement. That was just a quick, simple introduction to ForgeRock's intelligent authentication. Over the next few episodes, we present specific demos on how you can use intelligent authentication to satisfy brand new use cases. With an intelligent authentication engine and comprehensive security ecosystem, you can design login journeys that work for you and your customers. For more info, visit ForgeRock.com.
So this essentially was a quick demonstration of how you can build intelligent authentication journeys for your customers, employees, and contractors. And again, we keep enhancing this as a way of defining customer journeys. That's the approach we take. The other unique thing about ForgeRock as a provider is its trust network, right? And we realize that you can't do everything in one platform, and there will be existing investments which our customers have made in say identity proofing solutions, risk management solution, biometrics, strong authentication, you name it. We see Jumio doing a lot of good eKYC stuff, Dayon doing a lot of good biometric authentication stuff. So we would like to essentially enhance that whole ecosystem, and that's where we built our trust network with 80 plus pre-integrated tested partner technologies, which you can literally drag and drop, as you saw in the canvas in the video. You can drag and drop in those and wire them together to basically change the journeys depending on your need jurisdictionally as well as from a customer experience perspective. And so again, in summary, the ForgeRock difference essentially is to build a digital identity platform, leveraging technology which can scale up to millions and hundreds of millions of identities, future-proof your investment by means of our trust network integration possibilities, deploy for any kind of use cases, any kind of deployment pattern, and any kind of identity type. Experience, security, deployment, functionality, and CI/CD integration with comprehensive set of functionalities for large enterprises is what we specialize into. Recognized by the analysts. Again, I can share these slides with the participants and take their questions around that. And I just wanted to quickly share a quick case study, which is one of our major flagship customers called HSBC. They are leveraging ForgeRock platform and have consolidated 100 million identities into our platform as part of consolidating their consumer identity and access management requirements. They had about 400 different identity systems, which got consolidated into the platform as an orchestration layer, integrating across multiple LOBs across the globe, while providing their seamless employee and customer experience. And they have gained compliance to GDPR, PSD2, and open banking, leveraging the platform. As well as they have increased their security posture by integrating with the trust network providers like Dayon, Jumio, etc. for biometric, adaptive risk, and eKYC requirements. And at the same time, they are building futuristic use cases around Amazon Echo Dot, Alexa, voice-based transactions, integrating with IoT, which is smart watches and smart devices integration with the platform, and beyond. With that, I'll thank you for your time and take some of your questions.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you so much for your presentations. All right, let's basically look at it. I do have a questions emailed directly to me. Mm-hmm. It is a very comprehensive presentation, but so for someone like, it's actually new to digital identity. I mean, IAM itself is nothing new. I mean, it's been around for 20 years, single sign-on and all of that stuff. But because of, a lot of organizations in the world transform into digitalize pretty much everything. Right now, I actually don't have a wallet. Most of the time, I just use my phone to buy stuff, etc., etc. So what are the key blocks really for organization to deploy a successful digital identity project?
Yeah, okay, great question. First and foremost, right, every organization will have something or the other in place. So you have to really understand your landscape. We have a very interesting blog which talks about modernizing identity and access management and the 7 key steps you need to leverage. I can share that after the presentation as part of the follow-up content, where they talks about the steps you need to leverage to build that journey towards building a digital identity platform. One would be to understand your ecosystem, what you have in place, probably create an inventory of what kind of integrations you have in place. Then you have to coexist, because you can't change things in a big bang. Seldom big bang approaches are successful. So you need to build a platform or an architecture which can coexist with your existing investment in terms of IAM, while start migrating your smaller applications or less dense application from a population perspective or usage perspective. And over a period of time, migrate away from existing application integration to the new platform. That requires a lot of good understanding of what kind of authentication and authorization journeys you need, whether it is simple, username password based authentication, whether it is dependent on type of channels that you're building on top of it. Is it mobile? Is it web, or is it device to device kind of journeys that you're building? So you got to understand those use cases, those scenarios, and craft out smaller steps. Then what you have to do is essentially also understand what are your trust network requirements in terms of other technologies that you need to integrate with. Say today you might be using, say, Touch ID, Face ID for biometric authentication on your phone, right? But tomorrow your idea would be to move away to a more secure technology, which you don't know at the moment, but you would want to have a platform which has got pluggability to essentially plug into new technology as and when they come and arrive, right? So you got to look at those as the ideas. So it is more of a forward-looking view of what all further technologies which are coming down the line, say next 6 months, 12 months, or beyond, to integrate with your identity platform. So you got to build an architecture and approach considering all those factors as well. So from a building block perspective, understand your layout ecosystem, what integrations you have today, what investments you have today from an IAM perspective, and start building coexistence of the architecture, and then slowly from there migrate to the new platform. So that's how I would approach it. Happy to share the blog which has got the 7 steps of modernizing IAM.
Okay. Now, our organization work with, now this is talk about integration, right? So we work with Refinitiv. Refinitiv, as you know, the company specializes in doing, they're selling a product called WorldCheck. WorldCheck primarily, again, in the market for 20 years, about checking background check, due diligence, digital investigation, and those sort of things. Yeah. But they actually don't have the technology like you have, like digital identity and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of financial services, a lot of virtual bank and a lot of fintech company per se that now basically provide payment services are also subject to eKYC or KYC requirements and stuff. So if I basically use tool like not just Refinitiv, but like similar to Refinitiv, WorldCheck is the thing, and I use how do I integrate to basically enhance my eKYC project?
Yeah. So for that, what we recommend is to leverage our intelligent authentication trees. So the example that you saw, right? You can drag and drop and wire the journeys. So each and every block there, the node is essentially a technology integration, right? So it is as simple as collecting username, or it can be as advanced as party technologies like Refinitiv, making a REST API call saying, look, this is the transaction that's going on. This is the data I have collected that Ajay is transferring $100 from person A located in this country. Tell me what is your confidence in this transaction, depending on where Ajay is operating from. So you can pass on those information, contextual information to likes of Refinitiv, or basically you can say, hey, in my profile store, I don't see Ajay's eKYC'd. I would like you to complete the eKYC process for Ajay before I can transact with him. So you can call out those technology vendors like Jumio or Refinitiv, etc., to complete the KYC bit. And once they complete it, then only the user can be onboarded or given access to technologies, right? So that's how we use intelligent authentication trees to essentially orchestrate those journeys and call out third parties to onboard, do eKYC, AML checks, fraud detection checks, and then allow or deny the transaction, and maybe sometime take them to the honeypot environment, because you want to really understand if it's an attacker, what they're really trying to do, and learn from that, as a cyber practitioner, so that you're prepared for the next times.
Okay, that's good. Last but not least, there's a question about employee experience. How is this going to, the role of identity, digital identity for employee? How easy is it to use, to set it up, to use it, etc.?
Great question. And again, we as a company had a very good uptake in the consumer identity space, and in last 3 years we have made significant investment into the platform to make it employee experience oriented as well. And that's where intelligent authentication trees were so powerful. Some of our customers have rolled out, for 50, 100,000 employee base, a new experience, logging in through VPN or through web applications in a matter of few weeks and months, for 100,000 employees in some cases. So it is very fast to deploy. In fact, the whole platform takes about 5 minutes to deploy, leveraging the DevOps way of doing things. To set up a tree, etc., you probably just need few minutes again. And then it's only the integration effort which you need to spend. So likes of VPN or web applications. VPN integration in our case is like, done in minutes. So you can set up an end-to-end platform with use cases and journeys in a matter of day maximum.
So for example, right now, Singapore is locked down.
Yeah.
And I can't go to work. And all the employee basically say, how do I know if this is my real employee? How do I know that his account is not hacked? And then it's just basically allow me to basically send private confidential information.
Yeah. There are a couple of ways, customers are handling that kind of situation as we speak. One is they are following the traditional VPN approach that you can only access by means of VPN. And then again, we implement multi-factor authentication on top of the normal VPN authentication that you were doing. That's one way of controlling it. Is it foolproof? Maybe no, because it does not look at any kind of context. It is just essentially looking at username, password, and multi-factor authentication. There are some organizations which are adopting zero trust and beyond COP kind of approach, which Google has built, which is essentially looking at digital identity, what device you're coming from, which IP address you're coming from, which location you're coming from, and what type of transaction you're doing, and much more. So we can go as granular as having an SDK inbuilt into your mobile apps on the device, or collect information from your device footprint perspective from your laptops or desktops, and analyze that against your previous accesses. And if the behavioral matches into a confidence score, then only allow the transaction, or stop you from accessing it. So the advanced ones are leveraging contextual authentication and authorization, and the standard ones or the larger enterprises are sticking to the VPN way of approaching with MFA.
Okay, we do have one question just came in. When will, if ever, ForgeRock authentication solution support desktop-based MFA client?
Very good question. So as a technology company, right, we looked at the ecosystem, and what we realized is to build that integration ourselves will take some time, maybe 1 year, 2 years, because problem with desktop MFA and desktop related integration is that you go to build agent for pretty much every single OS out there, which as you would think, is not possible, and is very difficult to keep up with. Every Tuesday, Microsoft rolls out a patch. So then you have to make sure your agent works. And that's a very difficult task to keep up with, right? And what we have done essentially in that space is we have integrated with the trust network providers, we call them. This is the likes of, Hyper, Veridium, Secret Double Octopus, which are very good at desktop MFA. And we have out of the box integration with these providers. So if you combine the best of breed from ForgeRock and that of SDO or Veridium or Hyper, you can achieve the desktop MFA. You can achieve other kind of scenarios related to desktop applications with multi-factor authentication, while leveraging us as the core engine providing the multi-factor authentication capabilities. So at the moment we are handling it that ways. Are we going to do it in future? We don't know as of now, but if there is enough demand, why not?
Okay, I have a very interesting question here.
Yeah.
You say, hi, Usman here. I'm curious. I'm facing tons of pain with my team working home in China, where there lies the Great Firewall. Folks can only access my SD-WAN, you know what it is, from the office. And when they work from home, they have difficulty getting into VPN. Now, this is actually, my team also have problem with that as well. They can't access VPN sometimes. Have you experienced this with your Chinese customer?
Yes, we have. They have specific requirements in China as regulated by the government there, and they have to do things their way. So what we have seen with customers who are deployed in China, they have built solutions and catered to those regulatory compliance requirements. From a performance perspective, right, or integration perspective, it is similar kind of design principles that you can follow, whether it is VPN integration or whether it is leveraging the zero trust Carta way of doing things, where you look at the digital identity as the main means and not worry about where they are coming from. Look at the context every single time, so that you're not bogged down by the VPN's performance or the network, performance issues that you have. So part of it is your network connectivity that you need to take care of. Your pipe size, your bandwidth requirements have to be checked, whether they are able to scale or not. That's one side of the problem. The other side of the problem is performance of these systems that can be improved if you go with a pure zero trust Carta approach. Look at the digital identity, open up your applications by means of, say, an identity gateway instead of directly exposing them, and then leverage the principle of contextual authentication and authorization with the likes of ForgeRock to protect the access and make sure that authentication authorization is done in a proper way without compromising the security. So there are a couple of ways to do it, but part of it could be the network bandwidth related issues also that you need to factor in.
Okay. I think we'll answer this question all as possible as we could. Thank you, Ajay, for your great presentations. Everyone's that actually in this room, can we basically thank you, applause to Ajay for your great presentation. Hopefully stay safe and healthy. please, everyone, still stay on to this particular room as our next presentation is at 11:30, talking about zero trust, actually. Zero trust. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye-bye.